Okay, we're good. Cool. Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for a bit of an afternoon conversation around the future of the workplace. We're going to start with a video that opens up the research that Fuze has done over the last year on the future of work, and then Emma and I will lead you in a discussion about what's happening at Fuze and at ThoughtWorks. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for a bit of a conversation around the future of the workplace. My name is Michael Affronti. I'm the Vice President of Product at Fuze. And as you can tell from the video, we think a lot about what's going to happen in the future. We're very grounded in now, and we've got some amazing technology to help you with your IT and UC problems today. But a lot of the research that my team and our research group does is to help us understand how is the workforce changing, and more importantly, what are the expectations of the next generation of workforce as it relates to both software and the actual physical experience inside of their offices. And now I'm also joined by Emma from ThoughtWorks, so if you could introduce yourself, Emma, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Emma, and I work for ThoughtWorks. For those of you who don't know who ThoughtWorks are, we are a global software consultancy. We create bespoke software for clients. Our clients are generally people with whom software is at the core of their business, so it is their main differentiator. We generally have about 4,500 people across the globe, across 14 countries, and I believe about 45 offices. That does seem to change quite regularly. We're well known for our work in lean, agile, and continuous delivery. And we generally, beyond that, like to work remotely with clients on their sites and also have clients work in our offices as well. My role within ThoughtWorks is the head of the workspaces team in the UK. So I look after everything that the Thought workers need to do their work well. Everything from the laptops through to the offices themselves.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma, and thanks for joining us. The partnership that we have between Fuze and ThoughtWorks is great, mostly because Emma joins us at these events, but also we get to experiment with how Fuze works in a dynamic office environment. Okay, let's switch to this. So as I mentioned, we're going to cover three specific things today. We're going to talk a bit about our perspective on what's happening in the modern workplace. Talk a bit about what Fuze internally is going through, and then have a bit of a chat with Emma around what ThoughtWorks is doing. My hope is that you can actually take away one or two things to actually do or think about in your company as it relates to both physical layout and the software you choose to accomplish collaboration. So if you've seen some of this over the course of the expo or in the briefing booklets you found on your chairs, you know that Fuze is thinking a lot about what's happening after 2020. And that time frame is specific because around 2025, we believe that the most seismic shift in the composition of the workforce is going to occur because, as you can tell, a majority of the current leaders of most companies will be, quite frankly, aging out of the workforce, replaced by a set of workers that we dub the app generation, who have an entirely different set of expectations around the tools that they use, as well as the workplace that they actually use to get their jobs done. So we're going to chat a bit about how that impacts both of our companies. When you look at flexible work, the thing I always like to say to our customers is that right now flexible work for most people is a benefit. It's something that, oh, my company rewards flexible Fridays every third Friday, or I get to work from home 1 week out of the month, every third month, or these weird permutations. The app generation doesn't think like that. They come to work assuming that flexible work is a part of the culture, the vernacular, and the physical infrastructure. And I think that's where there's probably a very large divide between what people think is happening versus where the expectation is. So we'll talk a bit about that as well with Emma. Okay, but a very interesting corollary to that is that the standard office, the white walls with the gray cubicles and the big desks for big CRT monitors, that's certainly going away. But when we polled over 9,000 people globally around what matters most with a distributed workforce, they said face-to-face communication. So that, oh, wait a minute, I want to mostly be flexible and work from home. And I think this is where the value of making sure that your collaboration tools support as rich of an interaction as possible. But even more empirically, are you budgeting for the travel necessary to make sure that periodically your remote teams get together? And do you have the physical space to support that kind of collaboration? So Fuze headquarters is currently in Cambridge, Massachusetts, actually far out in the suburbs from downtown Boston. And we were evaluating an office move over the last 2 years. And we were headed towards doing kind of a mega campus, further out in the suburbs, very, very large physical footprint, offices for every single possible person in Fuze in the Northeast region and in headquarters. And what we realized when we polled workers within Fuze is that a lot of people were working from home more so than we realized. And they were using the office as a reason to get together periodically to meet up and do work. There are some Fusers in the audience, and we use events like this to kind of get together after the event for a full day of meetings and collaboration. And we realized that our workforce, without knowing it, had become that sort of app generation model. So we've switched, and now we're opening 3 floors of an office building in downtown Boston. And we're designing it similar to what Emma's going to show you with ThoughtWorks, where it's a focus on sort of hoteling and the idea that I can pop in for a few days, have a really great set of collaborations with my coworkers, but then I can leave and other people can use the space as well. And to further reinforce the point that we actually are very flexible at Fuze, this was yesterday. My colleagues and I were in some meetings with a customer downtown. Actually, we left Emma at ThoughtWorks, and we needed to get some work done. We all happened to have meetings coming up, so we were walking around looking for free Wi-Fi on our phones like this, like we were looking for water. And we found a cafe, sat down, and wound up doing 3 hours of work. And this, to some folks may look abnormal. To me, this is Tuesday. I generally work where I can get internet and where I can get on a call without too many people overhearing it. People still fax. That's the whole point of this slide. We have faxing at Fuze if you need it. But more importantly, what the desk looks like and the tools that these app generation workers use has changed dramatically even over the last 5 years. Smartphones dominate the idea of having a fully capable device to participate in collaboration. You see the decline of the desk phone, and that matches some of the Fuze statistics that we have, where year over year, the number of software deployments of Fuze is going up, and the number of desk phone installations is going down. And what we often see is larger companies put desk phones in the home office because they feel like they need them there, and then all of the satellite offices will use just software, and then no one uses the hardware at the home office, and they wind up giving them back to us. So we're seeing this happen every time we deploy a large customer. So enough about Fuze. What I'd like to do now is have a conversation with Emma around some of the things that they're doing at ThoughtWorks and some of the ways that Fuze is a part of that. But hopefully you get some interesting takeaways around what you could do in your offices. So Emma, if I could ask you to start by just sharing a bit about what we're looking at and some of the thinking that went into it.
Yeah, so what you're looking at right now is a photo of our London office. In my opinion, the best office. Not biased at all. This is soon after we had it fit out. So we moved in here just under 2 years ago from a previously much smaller space. So this office is brand new when this photo was taken, and essentially we now model all of our offices off this one as a result. The idea of this was that we wanted to have a hot desking system, which fits in with ThoughtWorks culture. We don't want just one space where you call your own. We want to be able to share that. So every desk here is hot desk, which is great for collaboration. It's great for social. Everyone that works out this office day in, day out has the same feeling as someone who's just passing through, which is really, really great for us. We also have quite large conference rooms, so we can run projects out of there as well. We also get to run quite a lot of client meetings as well. But yeah, it is a really nice office, and you guys will see another photo in just a moment.
Great.
Cool.
So can you, there we go. So can you talk a little bit about some of the perceptions that a work environment like this could have, and perhaps some of the challenges that come with it?
Yes. So when I originally thought about this question, I thought about what someone's opinion of an office should look like. And if I asked that question to all of you of what you guys think your office should look like if you could redesign it right now, then you would all have very different thoughts. So obviously we, in ThoughtWorks, we have a way of doing things. When I started at ThoughtWorks, just under a year ago actually, I showed these photos to my dad, of all people, because I really wanted to show him what our office looked like. And I showed him, and of course he was very impressed. He thought it looked really, really cool. And then a few months later, I showed him, I was telling him about some software that we'd made for a client. And he turned around to me and said, "What do you mean software?" I said, "Dad, we're a software company. That's what we do." And he said, "Oh, I thought you guys made furniture." And I said, "Why did you think that we made furniture?" And he said, "Look, you know, those photos that you showed me, weren't they of your showroom?" And I said, "No, Dad, that's our office." And it made me really think about what his opinion of an office should look like. And it was not what he saw in those photos when he first imagined it. And I realized I've been to my dad's office, and I know what it's like. It is probably what one would call a very cookie-cutter office. It's 4 white walls, big tables. You have your own desk. You never really leave it. You don't really stretch out of that zone. It is very quiet. And when he saw our photos of where I was working, the first thing that came to his mind was not, that's an office. He thought that was a showroom. It's not necessarily just about how it looks, but to him, he's been in the workforce, I don't know, I don't want to give away his age, but 30, 40 years or so. Right. And for him, that's all he's known. And I think that this is, for me, being obviously a bit younger, the modern way of looking at an office.
It's a great story. I wish the Fuze offices in New York looked like this. I loved the ThoughtWorks office when I visited it. A little hidden trick inside of this experience in this room here, yes, is that TV is actually running Fuze. It's a Fuze room. So when we talk about Fuze rooms, we don't mean an expensive multi-camera setup with complicated audio and mics hanging from the ceiling. We actually mean a Logitech camera that's tucked up in the top over there, and the idea that any TV and an off-the-shelf camera can make a TV and an open space a huddle space. And you guys run meetings from that kitchen area, right?
We do.
Okay, so talking about the future, can you talk a bit about what's happening in Manchester and how you guys are thinking about the design?
Yeah, so we are actually moving our current Manchester office. The current office that we're in now is very similar to the room that you're in regards to size. And imagine this room full of 5 very large desks. That is our entire office. So to me, it's probably at the far end of being an open plan space. And with that, obviously we're building this one, we are expanding, we're growing, there's a lot happening in the north in regards to the digital community, and of course ThoughtWorks wants to be part of that. But what we really wanted to do was to take the things that we love from the office that we're in now and also address the concerns that come with open plan offices. So for example, as you can probably imagine, if there were 5 large desks in this room right now, it could get quite noisy. There is very little privacy, and there's definitely a lack of security as well. So with this office here, these are the plans for it. We still wanted to have those large open plan areas so that we can keep that culture that we love, but also we have a lot of Fuze rooms, a lot of meeting rooms, and a lot of very small private space to take those calls. One of the things also that we do in our current office is we run community events. This is something that we really love doing. But the problem is that we have to run it out of the office space. So as you can imagine, having to remove 5 large tables at 5:30 because we need to run an event that night can be very disruptive. So one of the first things that we wanted to do with this office was actually create a dedicated event space. Now imagine if you actually were coming in for an event in this office. One of my favorite things about it is the way that it's been designed to guide you. ThoughtWorks doesn't necessarily like physically telling you, it prefers to guide you and to show you. So if you come into this office and you're here for an event, you only have 2 directions. And one of those directions is going to be a workspace. You're going to see people in meeting rooms, you're going to see people on calls, and then you look in another direction and you see people sat in a communal seating area, and you see an auditorium and people having tea and coffee at the bar. You know if you're here for an event space that you're naturally going to head in that direction. So when this office was made, I was quite lucky that I had a few little inputs, which was nice. And I thought actually back to the story that I mentioned about my dad. I thought if he came to this office, would he know where to go if he came in, knowing what I know he knows about the office that he's in now. And I truly believe that if he came here for an event, he would have some understanding of which way to go.
Yeah, it's great. I can't wait to come visit.
Me neither.
Yeah. When you think about the modern workplace, as we talked about, it's both the physical and the actual software that's going to combine to make this virtual and physical experience really great. I think a simple way to say it is the software that you use to solve collaboration in this type of environment has to be flexible and easy enough to use that your users don't switch to using the consumer tools they're probably already using to solve the same problem. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on at Fuze, and that we've seen work very well with ThoughtWorks, is the idea that our unified software applications actually make it so that using Fuze is kind of fun. I mean, enterprise software doesn't often get to use the word fun and colorful and well-designed, but we've spent a lot of time thinking about the ergonomics and the actual experience to make it great. A key part of why Rooms, that Fuze Rooms experience, works so well is because it's not actually separate software. Anyone at ThoughtWorks that has ever used Fuze during the day can easily end a meeting with Chris and then join the town halls they have on Thursdays because it's the same software. And if you happen to walk up to a Fuze room and need to set it up for a meeting, it's just Fuze. And what we hear from our customers is, well, where's the manual for Fuze Rooms? And we say, well, it isn't, it's just Fuze. And that universal development really benefits end user adoption and deployment. I can attest to how important mobility is, given that I travel pretty much 3/4 of the month to our various offices and customers. I'm on our mobile device and our mobile phones all the time. A very common way to experience me in a meeting is in the back of an Uber, kind of bouncing around with the video. And you know, it's a part of the way that I work, and it's a part of the way that we see our customers work. In the last year, mobile operating systems have become really friendly to collaboration applications like ourselves, and we've seen the usage of our mobile app skyrocket in our customers. If you notice on the left over there, you see some settings in the screen. Those are not very interesting from a design standpoint, but we've thought very deeply about what it's like to get calls on your VoIP telephone in really poor network environments. So we've got some behind-the-scenes tricks that we do to make even incoming call reliability something that can be relied on by our customers. So it's not just about front-end design, it's thinking all the way through the experience of having a mobile device be your primary phone. I talked about Fuze rooms already. Andy, who's one of Emma's colleagues, is one of our other champions at ThoughtWorks, and he loves the fact that for about $300, you can put Fuze rooms into any conference room and turn it into a room. Very much more inexpensive than potentially a full Cisco deployment, as an example. The point is not about cost; it's about, again, the ease of use and the flexibility you can have with the experience. This is my favorite talking point about Fuze because it's perhaps the most nerdy when it comes to thinking about the product. But we spend a lot of time thinking about design and thinking about ergonomics. And what I mean by that is, if you're on your mobile app and you have to answer a call, and now another call comes in for call waiting, how far is the button from the right side of the screen? Because a number of people hold their phones with one hand. If you've got a larger phone, is the button so far that you have to kind of do this to answer it? Well, that's kind of annoying, and if you answer 10 calls a day, you're probably going to get pretty annoyed at our application and probably stop using it. So we do iterative design studies, we do A/B testing of things like color patterns to determine if it impacts adoption, to think really hard about, are we building the best software for our customers? Anyone in my group can use this live telemetry platform to understand anyone in the Fuze network, what is their experience. We can look at our A/B tests across the group, and we use data the same way that ThoughtWorks thinks about it with their customers, constantly fine-tuning the experience to make sure that every day our customers are getting the most they can out of Fuze. It's a very different model than perhaps traditional enterprise software. We also think very globally, and as a lot of our customers experience, we have this ability to go across the globe with the way that we deploy Fuze. We don't have Fuze North America and Fuze Europe. We just have the Fuze global network. And what that means for customers like ThoughtWorks is that anywhere that a ThoughtWorker travels across the globe, they get a consistent experience with the way that calling works, with the way that receiving calls, making calls, or even connecting to a Fuze meeting. And then we do all the smart things like giving you local access numbers for your meeting dial-ins, but more importantly, there's no difference in the experience both within your office and also across different boundaries. And just, could I ask you, with the time remaining, to talk just a little bit about the last Thursday meeting and how that works with across sites?
Absolutely. So last Thursday, as its name entails, is an event that ThoughtWorks runs on the last Thursday of every month. Generally, we run it European-wide. So for us, it's an example of a large multi-site event. Essentially, it is a meeting across all of our colleagues, those including those who are on client sites, those who are in the offices, some people who work from home, and also people who are on the road as well. Now, the great thing about last Thursday is that it truly is multi-site, and by that I mean it's not a case of everyone is dialing into London for one team meeting. Normally, the presenter can start in London, and then the control will be passed to Berlin, and they will present from there. And then from there, we may pass the presenter to a client site in Liverpool. And what that means is that we don't have to ship everyone into one place to run a large-scale meeting. It means that no matter where you are, whether you're on a client site or you're physically in the office, you are experiencing the same meeting. And for us, that has been one of the most important things because our team is so distributed. So for us to be able to include everyone, it's so important for our culture and also for our collaboration.
Yeah, that's great. I know that I've actually talked with them a bit more about last Thursday. It's something that we're thinking of actually trying in Fuze. Right now we're doing something like that quarterly, but we've gotten enough feedback from our remote teams that if we did something even more frequent, they would enjoy it. So we're considering that as well. We're just about out of time, so I'll ask if there are any questions, but before I do, I'll mention that we've got a great booth. It's quite purple. It's a E120. You should find it right outside. We've got a great set of the Fuze team there. We're doing some demos, going through the different parts of the product portfolio. We've got a room set up, as well as some of the product team who actually works on building it, and we'd be happy to talk more about what we've done. But let me quickly offer a thanks to everyone in the room for participating in the discussion today, and very much so to Emma and the ThoughtWorks team for being such great partners. And hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.